What if I told you that one of the best TV shows of all time came out 54 years ago? And what if I followed that up by saying it continues to be incredibly topical to many of the issues that we have today? Hello, my name is Dove. If you're new here, then welcome, and if you are returning, then welcome back, and also, I love you. I have a bit of a different thing to talk with you guys about today, and it's arguably both the most widely appealing topic I've ever talked about on this channel, and simultaneously, it's like the least tailored to my existing audience. So thank you for being here. I hope you stick around even if you have no idea what I'm about to be talking about. But even if you don't know anything about the subject matter, I can almost guarantee you that your dad does. And if your dad doesn't, then your uncle does. And if your uncle doesn't, then your grandpa does. Because today we're going to be talking about MASH, which is a long-running TV sitcom that premiered 54 years ago. So I'm not trying to act like this is some new crazy thing. People like MASH. Yeah, no shit, okay? Like, the show has been around literally twice as long as I've been alive. There's a reason that the finale, Goodbye, Farewell, and Amen, which premiered in 1983, held the record for the single most viewed piece of television globally for nearly 40 years. 40 years. It wasn't overtaken until, I want to say, like the 2011 Super Bowl. So my goal instead with this video is to encourage younger audiences like myself to give it a chance, and also to encourage those who are already familiar with it to go ahead and give it another go with fresh eyes and find new meaning in the context of today. Because in my personal experience, it might just be exactly what you didn't know you needed and what you didn't know that you had been searching for. Before we dive in, I do need to give some obligatory disclaimers, of which there are two. Though the show has more generally aged like fine wine, there are definitely some aspects of it that haven't. This isn't an excuse, but it is a reflection of the time in which it was made. While racism, for example, is always explicitly condemned within the script, there are certainly some problematic depictions of race that would never fly today, especially in the early seasons. Similarly, early seasons have a lot of questionable jokes at the expense of women. That said, these missteps are mostly contained within the first couple of seasons, and over the course of the show, it takes significant leaps and bounds to course correct alongside the changing times. With 50 years of hindsight and seeing the way that these stories were handled in later seasons, plus knowing the real-life politics of the actors and the agency that they had in developing their characters as the show progressed, I feel genuinely comfortable saying that despite these missteps, their hearts were pretty much always in the right place. The positives of the show far outweigh the negatives, and while that isn't full absolution, I do think it's worth it to extend some grace and meet the show where it's at. Because if you don't want to do that, I think you're going to miss out on a lot of really great stuff. My second disclaimer here is that this video is going to have some mild spoilers, and by that I mean there will be spoilers for the plot of individual episodes that I'm going to talk about, but because of the time period in which it came out, how television as a format was functioning with the media landscape, MASH is truly episodic TV. Pretty much everything is contained within single episodes, and there's really only one major spoiler in the entire show, arguably two if you want to include something that happens in the literal series finale. So like I'm not going to spoil those two things. But there's not really any ongoing storylines that can't immediately be understood contextually within any given episode. Like you could throw the entire series on shuffle and watch it just fine. Be sure to do all of the YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, drop a comment if it so behooves you.
Behooves? What are we, in the cavalry now?
Otherwise, we're gonna dive in.
And now, direct from North Korea, here he is for the 6th hit week. 5 o'clock Charlie, his airplane, and his astigmatism.
I was a latchkey kid. I have seen plenty of daytime TV syndication in my life, MASH reruns included. I had seen episodes here and there, but due to what I now know is the sheer volume of content, I had really only brushed the surface. So for the past few months, I had been sort of sporadically working my way through the first 2 seasons as the mood struck. But then I was off for around 2 weeks for the holidays, and I went on what I would consider to be a multi-week bender that consisted almost exclusively of smoking weed, knitting, and watching MASH. Just day to night. Just nothing but knitting, smoking weed, and MASH. Listen, great way to spend a vacation, I must say. But I was not prepared for just how fantastic this show was going to be. With over 250 episodes, including some double-length season premieres and then the feature-length series finale, MASH really does have it all. The show lures you in with its comedy. Early episodes are generally light, goofy, army buddy type humor that you would expect of a service comedy from the early 70s.
For the real punch. Hip, hop, hip, for the real punch. Hip, hop, hip, for the right bank march. The rear march. For the right bank march. The rear march. Halt.
The first 2 seasons are perfectly enjoyable with some period-typical gags that include bucking authority, making fun of military bureaucracy, and desperately trying to get into the sexy nurse's fatigues with mixed success.
Nurse, you're out of uniform.
Where?
How about my place in 5 minutes?
And then, before you can even guess what's coming, you get hit by the first gut punch of reality that has been so skillfully woven into the web of laughs. The show evolves from this as the seasons progress, bringing in more and more drama alongside the humor. Characters become more personal, situations more vulnerable, and increasingly creative episode formats push the limits of network television, both as a medium and also as a censoring body. Up until now, I've been pretty vague, so let's quickly cover the premise just in case you live under a rock and have managed to escape the pop culture references entirely. So the year is 1950, and the U.S. military, along with 20 other countries in the United Nations Security Council, provided combat troops and aid to a 3-year-long police action. MASH stands for Mobile Army Surgical Hospital, which was very much a real and exciting new development in the years after World War II. The idea was to bring wounded soldiers directly from the combat field to the operating table, if not to reduce casualties, then to, at the very least, improve survival rates. If you made it to MASH, you had a 98% chance of living. That's unthinkable compared to think of what was happening just a few years before in World War II. So the show follows the day-to-day life within one of these MASH units, the 4077. Our cast of characters centers around the doctors and nurses working there, many of whom were drafted against their will and thrown into the mess just a few miles away from the front. Understandably, baseline morale isn't great. And it really just continues to get worse when they hear the choppers coming.
Here they come!
I don't hear nothing.
Wait for it.
So instead, the real focus of the show isn't necessarily on what they're doing in the operating room, although that's certainly part of it, but it's focused on the ways that people keep themselves sane, or at least as sane as you can be in unthinkable circumstances, which isn't very.
A group of brave men are at work in a makeshift operating room, struggling to save your sons and brothers. Every red-blooded American knows if he is wounded, he will be in the strong, capable hands of a Yankee Doodle doctor.
A Yankee Doodle stuck a feather in his nose and called her macaroni.
This video and the show that it discusses is ultimately about the cultural geography of community, the place that you build with others when there is nowhere you would rather be less. It's the community in the show at the 4077. It's the community in time spent crowded around the TV with your family, watching together. It's the community that you find in the streets of your neighborhood, surrounded by violence and begging for it to end. The show is about hope, and it's about despair, and it's about taking care of each other in impossible situations. I think we all know, if not through words, then at least through experience, the value of laughter in tough times. There is catharsis in the recognition of the absurdity of circumstance. MASH is kind of, I would say, the original dramedy. The gravely serious is intertwined with the unserious and inane in a way that reflects the very real day-to-day life that so many of us are currently living. On screen, the doctors are tasked with repairing the senselessly mutilated bodies of people caught in crossfire. And when they're not doing that, they're doing everything they can to laugh and to make their friends laugh, and really to do anything that helps them forget, even for a moment, the circumstances that they're in. They are desperately searching for moments of levity to break up the violence, and when they can't find them, they make them. And they're not doing this because they're insensitive to their purpose for being there. They're doing it so that they can continue to show up every day and do their jobs at all without becoming a casualty of their own on the psychiatric front.
All right, Newsom, what happened?
Easy, Pierce. He just wandered in and sat down.
Steve, it's Hawkeye.
The blood won't come off. No matter what I do, it just stays there. Just take it easy. See what I mean? Look at that. It's never gonna go away. No matter how hard I scrub or how much I wash, it's just gonna stay there.
There's a level of checking out that's necessary for the sustained ability to clock in when you're performing such an awful, terribly depressing job. Knowing that there's little they can do on the grand scale to save the lives of the many, they put everything that they have into saving the life that's in front of them. In the broad sense, it's never enough. And in the immediate sense, it's literally everything. It's all there is. The further I got into this show, the more it meant to me. The more that news came out, the more headlines I was reading, the further I was taken on a journey that I hadn't expected or prepared for, beyond the confines of individual episodes and into the real world, through a tapestry of history and politics and communication and awareness of self. And it's a journey that I hope you will trust me to guide you on throughout this video. There are a lot of reasons that MASH is special, but it's all been elevated by the pure luck of the perfect timing, which allowed it to really thrive. The first season premiered in 1972, towards the end of US involvement in Vietnam. The war had become so deeply unpopular that the public majority emphatically supported withdrawal. And even politicians who had supported the war for years were finally drawing their line in the sand, creating a narrow pathway that, even with network censorship, allowed MASH to slip in some pretty pointed anti-military commentary early on in the show. The first season had a bad time slot and not much of an audience, but it was, as legend has it, saved from cancellation by an executive's wife who loved the show and begged for it to be renewed. The second season had a major time slot upgrade, airing Saturday nights right after the network's most popular show, which at the time was All in the Family. This timing shot MASH into the stratosphere and skyrocketed it to the fourth most popular show on television. And even as years went by and the popularity fluctuated, the fact that it first gained its major recognition in the final years of a dying monoculture gave it a staying power that it otherwise could have so easily missed. Lines that would have been censored coming out of anybody else's mouths were waved through unquestioningly, allowing the show to confront topical ethical social issues in a more upfront manner, such as the women's liberation movement, violent militarism, and even mental health struggles, which was very taboo.
The networks wanted to stay away from the reality element, the pain.
They said stay out of the operating room.
Wow. So how did
do
that
you do
change?
that with that story?
Right. So how were you able to change that?
We ignored it. So, and then when the time came when a soldier died on the operating table in one of the stories, they were crazy with, opposition to it. The head of the network said, "What is this, a situation tragedy?"
Really?
Yeah, because, see, they didn't want the full spectrum of life.
Well, did they not want the full spectrum of life because they thought it wouldn't sell?
Oh, sure.
Right. And so then when they saw it did, then they're saying, okay, do more?
Once we got popular, we could do anything we wanted.
As a cultural staple, MASH was bigger than the modern, streaming era mind can possibly comprehend. When the finale aired in 1983, over half of the U.S. population watched it. Half of the U.S. population watched it. That's crazy. I'm not exaggerating that. The official number, which is almost certainly undercounted, is 122 million viewers. And at the time, the population was 234 million. That is an undercount of over half. But I'm not giving you facts and figures just to give you facts and figures, because honestly, who cares? Not me, really. I'm telling you this to emphasize how special it is that something like this still exists for us to share right now. If you were alive when the finale came out in 1983, you probably watched it, okay? And even if, like me, you wouldn't be alive for another 15 years after it aired, I guarantee you that somebody in your life that you know and love who was alive did watch it. It's a show that has an incredibly wide audience across age, race, class, gender, and for so many people, watching it with your family, either as it was airing or in syndication, was a bonding opportunity. The creators of the show, as well as many of the other producers and writers who were involved, were veterans themselves, and when they couldn't draw on their own personal experience, they went to experts. Between seasons, the showrunners Larry Gelbart and Gene Reynolds went to Korea and conducted a bunch of interviews with veterans and civilians who had experienced the war personally. Hundreds of hours of interviews that were then drawn on to build episodes throughout the entire run of the show. It added a level of authenticity that people could connect with and relate to if they were there themselves. And then the subject matter itself helped to bridge a gap and foster connection for those who wanted to share but didn't always know how to get there themselves. I've read so many stories of people watching the show with their veteran fathers and hearing them open up about their own experiences of war for the first time. For many people, it's a lot easier to watch a funny show with your family and be able to point out a character playing an overzealous colonel and say, I knew somebody like that, or to see a funny but often dangerous situation being depicted and say, something like that happened to me. As the show got more serious, mental health began to take more and more of the spotlight. Through the absolute best recurring guest star in the whole show, which is the psychiatrist Sidney Friedman, therapy sessions were depicted on screen. And not only were they depicted on screen, they were handled with sensitivity and compassion. Navigating mental illness is framed as a strength of character, not a weakness. And then also, it's fucking funny. The show is fucking hilarious, okay? Things are popular for a reason. Now, will there be jokes that are technically outdated and uncouth? Yes. Will they make you laugh? Also, yes. Just let it happen, okay? There are a lot of incredibly sexist jokes that have made me absolutely crack up on this show, okay? The laughs are the reason that all of the other parts of it are so effective. And something else that I feel is worth noting, I did not realize until watching this show just how much I've been craving getting to see characters laugh together in world. I feel like so many jokes on TV comedies right now are played to the audience through the screen instead of between characters on the show. So somebody will say something ridiculous and nobody else in the scene will acknowledge it, but it's It's sort of like winking at the camera, like, isn't this guy crazy? And like the thing that makes it funny is the lack of reaction. And don't get me wrong, I like that type of humor. It works. However, the difference is that the show isn't playing to the audience. It's playing to the other characters. It doesn't attempt to make jokes that are above the characters who are telling them or the audience that it's telling it to. If the joke that the character makes is funny, it will get a laugh in the show. And if it doesn't, it's because that's part of the joke in world too, not just like the joke in sort of a meta sense. It's like within the show, part of the joke is the fact that nobody's reacting, and that's what makes it funny to them, not to us.
Okay. Ready for the army again?
On set, the actors spent basically every single moment together. There was no like going back to trailers and sitting on their own. They would literally just sit together between scenes and make each other laugh up to the moments the camera started rolling.
We didn't do what a lot of actors do between shots, where go over the lines maybe a little bit and then disappear into the dressing room while they light the set or waiting for your next scene. We sat in a circle of chairs and made fun of each other for hours at a time.
Did you really?
Yeah, and just laughed.
The actors were and also still are close friends. Both as actors and characters, there's a familiarity that can often be replicated but is rarely captured authentically. And the authenticity is what makes it so sweet, okay? There's moments that jump out sometimes where a scene of a joke between two will get a laugh from all four. It's the character who made it, the character who heard it, and both of the actors who performed it. It's like all of them are laughing together at the same time.
The lights kind of eliminate the oxygen and you get giddy.
Right.
So we'd have these laughing jags and we couldn't stop. And once one person started, the other person could. But whichever actor was directing that week would suddenly say, people.
Come on, get it together,
Yeah,
right?
Right. And the more you try, the worse it gets.
The most visceral example of this, which jumps to mind, is from an episode in season 10 called Where There's a Will, There's a War, which is one of my favorite episodes. And it shows a moment of like what I would consider sleep-drunk hilarity between Hawkeye and Margaret that just, there's no faking that laughter, okay? Those are real laughs.
Sulfur.
Sulfur. Sulfur? Where's this stupid sulfur?
It's in the living room.
What?
The sulfur's in the living room between the end tables.
Margaret, you made a joke.
I told you I was tired.
The sulfur's in the living room? I can't believe you said that. The sulfur's in the... Okay, sulfur. Here, we got plenty.
Sulfur, so good. Morphine.
No, thanks. I've got plenty. No, I love it. Somebody's been playing with your silly hormones.
Oh, come on. We gotta get this done.
All right, okay. Did you tell us?
No, I'm keeping it a secret.
And then I just wanted to slip it in here because I wasn't sure where else I was going to be able to slip it in. But another thing that I really love about the show and I think draws me to it is in many ways it's like camp. Like, if you don't know this about me, I'm a huge summer camp person. Okay, I went to the same summer camp for like 7-8 years as a kid, and then I worked there for like 5 years as a counselor, and then for the past, I want to say 4 years, I've been using my real life adult job PTO to go back to my summer camp and volunteer as an adult so that I can hang out with all of my friends who are also now volunteers as adults. And like, I'm not actually trying to say that herding 11-year-olds around is comparable to being a doctor a few miles from the front lines of a war. But I am saying that I think the day-to-day life that is lived and the relationships that are cultivated from that life, which is like a lack of privacy and insufficient sleep.
There's a long, long trail winding into the land of my dreams, where the nightingales are singing and the white moon beams.
And mediocre, often repetitive food.
The Geneva Convention prohibits the killing of our taste buds.
Easy.
I simply cannot eat the same food every day. Fish, liver, day after day. I've eaten a river of liver and an ocean of fish.
And sitting around trying to keep yourselves entertained.
We'll fill in the time. Let's all sing a community sing. We'll have the film fixed in a jiffy. Come on, it's fun. It's also an order.
And going and taking showers with your buddies, the communal showers.
I've never had a martini that way. May I?
Oh, please. Goes great with a soap chaser.
Low-key, and like sometimes the patients are kind of like campers, and you would be surprised over the ways that they need you to show up for them that are not so much like a surgeon and a lot more like a camp counselor.
And that concludes 5 o'clock Charlie for today, folks. Hope you enjoyed him as much as North Korea enjoyed bringing him to you. Results of the pool will be announced in just a few minutes. Join us tomorrow, same time. Until then, have a nice war.
The first way that I stalled for time, waiting for my own thoughts to take shape, was actually to create a quote-unquote MASH curriculum. Because I'm no dummy, okay? I know that over 250 episodes of a show that came out over half a century ago and had at that point been taken off of all streaming services, that's an incredibly hard sell. Luckily, it was returned to Hulu and Disney Plus 2 weeks later, but I do need you guys to know that I was in fact violently ripped out of my aforementioned knitting weed mash bender at exactly midnight on New Year's. And I was in denial about it. For the next hour, I continued to like refresh the page, then go and look at all of the other streaming services, and upon coming up empty, go back to Disney Plus and refresh the page again. You know, like an addict. By 1 a.m. I had found the Internet Archive collection, which is actually how I suggest you guys watch it because it's free and doesn't require a subscription. I found the Internet Archives collection thanks to r/MASH, who was, and this would be funny enough to laugh at if not for the fact that I was actively part of it, melting down over the loss within minutes. It got yanked off of streaming midnight on New Year's. Within 15 minutes, r/MASH was like, what just happened? Where is it? I was watching it. But anyways, back to it's a hard sell, right? Knowing that most people wouldn't be convinced, I decided to take advantage of the episodic format to create a curated list of suggested episodes. And this went through a few different iterations until I finally landed on a tier ranking system that allows for like a mix and match approach to prioritize certain episodes depending on how much you're willing to commit to. And guys, I took it very seriously. Like I took it very seriously. Too seriously, most people would agree. I published that before I even started on the outline of this video because I figured it would be a good idea to go ahead and offer a head start to those who are interested in coming all aboard the MASH train with me. The reason I'm telling you this is because I want you to understand the headspace I was in. Okay, I was completely drunk on MASH. I was obsessing over it, while at the exact same time I was watching a war outside of my metaphorical and sometimes literal window. I was still working on the list when Renee Good was murdered by ICE outside of her home, and I was working on collecting resources and putting an outline together as the right tried to twist the truth and claim it was self-defense, as if shooting a woman who was turning away from you is As more days passed and more terrible news graced the headlines, the work that I was doing on this project felt both more and also less urgent. Less urgent because you can't compare writing a silly little video essay about an old TV show with innocent civilians getting senselessly murdered in the streets, right? And also, it felt more important because stories have the power to heal, and they have the power to inspire action. This quote comes from a New Yorker article about MASH that was originally published in 2018. Patriotism has soured into ugly, gun-loving nationalism, with brown people and foreigners the targets of nonsensical, hateful rage. Normalcy has vanished. Everyone is freaked out, overworked, irritable, unable to sleep, nerves completely shot. Each morning seems to bring some fresh hell, a reminder that the nightmare is real and that there is no end in sight. Salvation is found in small personal connections, in wry humor, and in the forlorn hope that intelligence and decency will ultimately prevail. At its core, MASH is about surviving amid chaos, about being trapped in an impossible situation in which the struggle is taken up every day, not out of any Pollyanna belief that things will change anytime soon, but simply because it's the right thing to do. In 1968, the notion that our true enemy could be the callousness, hypocrisy, and small-minded ignorance of our own leaders was fashionable, and 50 years later, it's become evergreen. And that was written 8 years ago, as the world was falling apart, and as I write the script and record this video, the world is falling apart. And also, when the show was airing, too, the world was falling apart. And MASH continues to be relevant for the simple reason that the more things change, the more they stay the same. The thought that I keep coming back to when I think about the ongoing resonance that MASH has is a scene from one of my favorite episodes and the season 4 premiere called Welcome to Korea, which first introduces us to Hawkeye's canonically queer platonic soulmate, BJ Honeycutt. Now, when I say canonically queer platonic soulmate, do they say it in so many words? No. Is it true? Yes.
I want you to know how much you've meant to me. I'll never be able to shake you.
I can't imagine what this place would have been like if I hadn't found you here.
That is canon. Okay, now, what's not canon is the fact that also BJ is my own personal emotional support bisexual. Technically not canon, but still true.
Are you trying to make me lose this game?
You deserve to lose. You spoiled all my fun. Haircut, shave, manicure, massage. I couldn't enjoy any of it.
I'm gonna kill you if you don't stop.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that's not a straight man. It simply isn't a straight man.
Hey, when I wake up, remind me to give you a kiss.
Go back to sleep. You're dreaming.
BJ shows up at the MASH straight out of residency with a still recovering wife and newborn at home. The army came knocking, and here he is. Okay, he first arrives in Kimpo to Radar, who's there to pick him up, and also Hawkeye, who's in a state of shock and denial over the sudden departure of his buddy Trapper. And while they were doing stuff, the Jeep gets stolen. So while Radar's freaking out about that, Hawkeye's like, let's go to the officers club and get hammered. They then come out and steal a general's Jeep and start the journey back, only to be interrupted a few times along the way by the realities of war.
Look, Radar, our Jeep.
It's a general's Jeep.
No. What they've done in order to get into the officers club is they put a general's flag on our Jeep.
It's not.
I can prove it. Test me. It's olive drab, right?
Well,
It
yeah,
says made in Detroit.
They all
Has
say
mud
that.
underneath and 4 seats that can reduce your behind to tears.
Yeah, but
They didn't fool me for a minute.
There's guerrilla gunfire while they try to change a flat tire.
I
think I hate this.
You sure we need all 4 tires?
Get the thing, now get the cards out.
There's a family risking their daughters' lives to protect the family's livelihood as they check their field for landmines.
Get her in a Jeep, will you?
Holy cow.
And there's a group of American soldiers that they meet moments before they're shelled.
Anybody here from Maine?
I'm from Vermont.
Close, but no cigar.
How about California?
What? How about Iowa?
Yo!
Ottumwa, Iowa?
Ottumwa did its bid radar. They sent you.
Take cover! Hit the ground!
To his credit, BJ has only been here a couple of hours and had already proven himself to be somebody who's confident, easygoing, adaptable, and ready to fit right into our gang. But the sight of mutilated men, some already dead and others actively bleeding out, who had been joking with him just a couple of minutes before, it's too much. He drags himself a few yards away from the carnage and begins to vomit. Hawkeye walks over and comforts him, holding him while he gags and supporting him in a way that only somebody else who has been there can. But there is work to be done, so when his stomach settles, Hawkeye helps him to his feet.
Don't forget, this is your first day at school. The worst part is you'll get used to all of this.
Starting in season 4, the show would continue to grow in both depth and breadth. Side characters like Father Mulcahy and Klinger would show up more often, and our standard ensemble would begin to explore a previously unseen level of introspection. The question each episode would ask grew beyond the lighthearted, how can we pass time between casualties, and move into how would these people react to a fresh new hell every day? And the answer, delightfully, still included silly antics. But beyond that, the answers were personal, philosophical, and widely varied between characters. There's a great episode in season 5 called Dear Sigmund. Our army psychiatrist, Sidney Friedman, comes to visit the 4077 to kickstart his own emotional healing after losing a patient to suicide. The episode uses the show's common letter home format, where somebody is writing a letter and they have narration throughout the episode. In this one, Sidney is writing to Freud, except he's really just journaling. But in the narration, he goes through each cast member and psychoanalyzes them a little bit. It's a heartwarming and bittersweet episode that helps us understand each of them a bit more and honestly build on what we already knew about them. You already felt this about each of the characters, even if you didn't have the words to describe it. But the philosophers have words to give us.
Dear Sigmund, I've been feeling somewhat frustrated lately, and so I came to a kind of spa. The waters are pretty good here. And the inmates have an interesting defense against carnage. Insanity in the service of health.
Trapper John is a textbook hedonist. His escape is simply seeking pleasure in whatever form that it presents itself. A nurse, a drink, a poker game, a joke.
Post-op duty, Captain.
Not for 26 minutes, you don't.
Henry Blake plays the goofy, indecisive, and checked the fuck out colonel.
He's a lovely man, our Henry. But if this weren't a war, he'd surely be arrested for impersonating an officer.
Are we coming, Radar?
Almost, sir.
You sure you know how to work that gizmo?
Oh, yes, sir. You just feed the leader through, catch it on the sprockets, and hook it on the old take-up reel.
Glad you know how. I was never very good with my hands.
Guess that's why you became a surgeon, huh, sir?
He exists as an Epicurean, which is adjacent to hedonism insofar as it seeks pleasure, but it posits that the highest pleasure is found through the absence of pain, not the presence of delight. Where Trapper is only acutely aware of pain when he's directly confronted by it, Henry seemingly lives on a detached plane above the distressing reality around him, trying his best to block it out entirely. Hawkeye is an absurdist, which Sidney does point out directly in the episode.
One of them is particularly good at it, name of Hawkeye. A couple of weeks ago, he made rounds in post-op with a personality that had split 2 for 1.
Good evening, ladies and germs. I'm sorry I'm late, but my watch stopped. It had to. It's been running fast all week. Well, your feet seem to be coming along just fine.
It's my head, Doc.
Oh, yes, for a minute there, you had athlete scalp.
Nothing here at the 4077 makes sense, and by the way, I don't think anything has ever made sense anywhere else either.
As you pointed out, Sigmund, there's a link between anger and wit. Anger turned inward is depression. Anger turned sideways is Hawkeye.
There is no meaning, there is only living. War is meaningless, and yet it goes on. The breadth of experience is limited only by your imagination, and Hawkeye has a good imagination.
How do you manage to stay sane over here? Well, there are certain tricks to staying sane. Little things you can do. For instance, get out in the road there where the Jeeps are coming by, and everybody stick your foot out in front of the Jeep, and the last one to pull his foot in is the sane one.
And then there's BJ, my love. Sydney agrees that BJ is pretty hard to pin down, but I would call him a stoic. He focuses on regulating the only thing he has control over, which is himself.
The one person I can't figure out, even with all you've taught me, Sigmund, is BJ Honeycutt. He's an enigma with size 13 shoes. In the midst of the most terrific enterprise ever devised to separate a person's brains from his buns, BJ goes calmly on. I envy his serenity. Although there must be a volcano under there somewhere.
He reacts to circumstances beyond his control as positively as he can. And he's also revealed to be a talented prankster, something else that he can control. His pranks aren't only an opportunity to express his own emotion through a creative outlet of harmless silliness, but he also provides the service of laughter to others.
Rank makes no difference. No one is safe from the mad joker.
I'm sorry.
But every once in a while, things are just too much and he will crack, as seen in another one of my favorite episodes, Season 8, Episode 6, Period of Adjustment. BJ doesn't often go searching for the support of others, but so strong is his presence that everyone drops what they're doing when he needs genuine help and isn't there.
I've been gone so long, okay? A lifetime. Aaron's lifetime. If I go home tomorrow, I'll never get that back.
Margaret's actions, if not always her words, show her pragmatism. She's a woman of action, not feeling. Only she does feel, and she feels so deeply.
Margaret's an interesting woman. On the outside, all discipline and strength, and on the inside, 6 kinds of passion looking for an exit.
That energy is channeled into her work, and that's highlighted in an episode following her divorce where she devotes herself to improving triage procedures. When she does, on occasion, spill over and breach her self-enforced emotional containment, it's often over trivial things that mask the big things. In this episode, she's scandalized by the presence of a freshly laundered jockstrap, as opposed to, the mutilated bodies of young men that she cares for every single day.
Am I upset? Am I distressed? No. One has to be strong, Major. In strength is serenity.
Well, I take my hat off to you, Margaret.
Just a minute, Major. What is that thing doing over there?
I'm sorry, what thing?
You let a woman sit down and have a drink with you with that thing there?
You mean the athletic supporter? Major, you're a nurse.
It's disgusting. Will you put something over it?
Like a fig leaf?
How dare you parade that thing in front of me?
Major, it isn't even mine.
Will you please put your hat on it?
Certainly.
Thank you.
My uniform is proud to serve. I'm sorry you got upset.
I'm not upset.
Charles has more of a Platonic view of knowledge, that is, Plato, not Platonic in like a friend's way. And it's perfectly characterized by the surgical mantra that he employs when he first arrives.
Gentlemen, I do one thing at a time, I do it very well, and then I move on.
His obsession with order and properness is pompous and ridiculed sometimes, and he's rightfully teased over it. But I can't really blame him. The order that he craves, where he has always found safety, is a natural reaction to the disorder that he is surrounded by at all times. When you base your life's values on an adherence to structure and clearly laid plans, but those plans are suddenly derailed, who can help you build a whole new map?
Mother and Dad, I will put this as eloquently and succinctly as possible. Get me the hell out of here!
On the other hand, Colonel Potter is Kantian by nature. Every day, his actions answer the question of what we owe each other. It may not always be his greatest desire, but he will always fulfill his duty to others, and that brings him purpose and satisfaction. He is a father figure, a friend, a judge, a boss, and honestly, a very tired camp counselor who just wants to relax.
A lot of the boys look up to you as a father figure. Do you get that feeling? I suppose they do, and that gets to be a pain in the too. I don't mean that in a nasty sort of a way. I know it's perfectly natural. That's what I think part of my duty as a commanding officer is, to accept that and to give it back in the best way that I can.
The man joined the Calgary in World War I when he was just 15, and he's been through 3 wars and seen it all before. They always look a little different, but then he still cares deeply for and owes his men just the same.
Well, do you see anything good coming out of this? Not a damn thing.
It's maybe a bit ironic that I would describe Frank as the show's theist when I would not say the same for Father Mulcahy, who is the priest.
Sounds any harm in doctors being ordered to behave as patriotically as possible. Well, doesn't patriotism have to come from the heart? I don't have that problem.
Even Frank, who is in pretty much every way a piece of shit and is the only character who gets worse as the show goes on, which mostly is a symptom of the fact that Larry Linfield was so good at playing a terrible man.
Frank! Well, let's have it. Have what? Give it to him, Frank, before they give us a .32 caliber enema.
What's the matter with you guys? You gonna say with me or the RED?
Frank, the RED speaks English better than YOU do.
Is it not enough that your planes harass us day and night? It makes it impossible for me to treat my own people. We make a civilized gesture and you respond by coming here with a gun ready to shoot us down.
All right, Frank, come on, give it up.
What the hell is that?
Comes in a box of Cracker Jacks. It's also a whistle.
He's also trying to engage in a self-protective mentality, the same as everybody else. Like God, the army can do no wrong. Therefore, if he does what the army commands him to do, he can do no wrong.
What do you think of President Eisenhower? Well, he's a general.
Nothing can possibly be his fault because admitting fault is to lose the certainty of righteousness. Uncertainty is something to be feared unless it's shielded by purpose. Ideally, the purpose known only to a higher chain of command.
You're talking to a patriot, buddy. I worship the United States of America, for which it stands, and unlike you, would do nothing to disgrace it. For all the communists in China!
On the other hand, not only is the Padre, which his name is Father Mulcahy, but Potter calls him the Padre, and I think that's funny, so I also call him the Padre.
It's gonna take a lot more than a drop, Padre.
Not only is the Padre not so unquestioning, he's arguably the most philosophical of any of our characters. His arc is actually one of my favorites in the entire show. As the camp's chaplain, his primary duties involve consoling the dead and the close to dead. Meanwhile, everybody else around him is constantly saving lives. So it's no wonder that he begins to feel increasingly useless and question his purpose for being there.
I'm almost desperate to be useful, sis. No one comes for confession. I have no one to grant absolution to, no one to give comfort to, no one who even wants to bend my ear for 10 minutes.
And it's no wonder he jumps on any and every opportunity to be useful in tangible ways.
When you're faced with such overwhelming physical misery, it just doesn't seem enough to offer spiritual comfort. I keep wanting to do more, but more is never enough.
Can you even get more existentialist than a preoccupation with asking the big why? Why am I here?
All you're supposed to do is the best you can.
Some best.
Best is best. Look, suppose you were sitting here now with somebody who had done his best and was feeling lousy about it. You'd let him off the hook, wouldn't you?
Sure I would. And if the hook didn't work, I'd probably try an uppercut.
Episodes that focus on the Padre always come with a battle of ethics. In one such, the 4077 is having to ration penicillin because so much of it has been stolen. Only for Father Father Mulcahy to learn from a soldier's confession exactly where some of that stolen penicillin is being temporarily hidden before it's to be sold on the black market. He can't tell anyone the details because, the confessional seal of the priesthood and all of that stuff, but he feels equally unable to not act and acquire the life-saving medication that he knows the exact location of.
Actually, it's something of a dilemma.
Well, what's the dilemma?
I'm afraid
Can't tell
I
me
can't
that.
tell you that.
Uh-huh. Look, Father, I'm kind of busy. I'm trying to rustle up some penicillin.
Oh, exactly.
Exactly what?
Oh.
So what does he do? He recruits Klinger as the getaway driver for an unspecified mission and does it himself.
I know where we may be able to find some penicillin.
Oh, yeah? Where?
Well, I can't tell you that.
Then how are we going to get there?
Oh, yes. Well, I better drive.
Then what do you need me for?
I can't divulge that either.
Okay. I've been on blind dates before.
This is the first of many episodes that the Padre gets involved with black market dealings and various other Robin Hood schemes in order to benefit others.
And anyway, who'd be low enough to have connections with those tarantulas?
Well, as a matter of fact, me.
You?
Why, you devil, you.
Well, on occasion, I've had to deal through the black market to obtain supplies for the orphans. You can get practically anything.
Yeah, but you have to give them practically everything.
Not always. You'd be surprised what a priest can get away with.
Father Mulcahy is also a boxer, which is fun and hilarious to me, because if I had a nickel for every time I fell in love with a morally complicated but genuinely well-meaning boxing priest this December... I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird it happened twice. The Padre is funny and mischievous.
He needs time.
What do you care? You're ahead $50.
The Lord moves in mysterious ways.
He sings and plays ragtime piano in the officers' club.
What you gonna be, Father?
Button up your overcoat.
Fine. Key of L.
Button up your overcoat when the wind blows free. Take good care of yourself, you belong to me.
He assures people that God understands the circumstances under which they may or may not have made promises in exchange for survival. In his letter writing episode called Dear Sis, the recipient is his sister, who is a basketball-playing nun. In that same episode, Radar asks Father Mulcahy to give him a blessing over the phone to his mother in Iowa for the family cow, who's about to give birth. He asks if the blessing can be done in Methodist, to which the Padre responds,
I'm a piano player, Radar. I'll transpose.
The Padre continually questions God's purpose for him, but in an act of true faith, he trusts that God will guide him there so long as he continues to follow his own intuition. Father Mulcahy is not just sitting around asking God to give him answers, he's actively searching for them on his own in the meantime. The war will change him the same as it will change everyone, but he takes an interest in exploring it as it's happening.
When the doctors cut into a patient, and it's cold, white as snow today, steam rises from the body. And the doctor will warm himself over the open wound. Could anyone look on that and not feel changed?
Hello, it's been a few months. It's future me. I think this might be the first time you're seeing me in the video. However, this is the very last extra thing that I'm recording for it. So it's been a few months. I'm this close to being done and getting this video out into the world. That said, I realized as I was editing that I do not say a single thing about Radar, like in the whole video. And I knew that if I didn't come on and say something about that, people would be like, hey, what the fuck? Because Radar is an essential piece of the seasons that he's a part of. He ends up leaving the cast at the beginning of season 8. I don't consider that a spoiler. The cast comes and goes. That said, let's talk about Radar for a second, because I actually think the fact that I kind of forgot to include him in any of this is really emblematic of the function that he plays in the story, which is that his character is the backbone of everything, and therefore is never really at the forefront, or very rarely at the forefront. Radar is portraying by far the youngest person in the camp, and also he is the person that keeps all of the logistical stuff running. He is taking care of all of the practical stuff, all of the paperwork that Army bureaucracy requires.
Where do I...
Sign the original of each form, sir, and initial the carbon copies. Or if you want, you can sign the carbon copies and initial the originals, and then sign this form signifying that you signed what you should have initialed.
Radar, do you really understand all this Army stuff?
Helps not to be too bright, sir.
He's able to anticipate and fulfill people's needs before they're even fully aware of them themselves. That's how he gets the name Radar. He can always hear the choppers coming before anybody else. It's not even that he hears them, it's that he knows they're coming.
What is it?
Choppers, sir.
I don't hear anything.
Throughout the many years that the series was airing, his character definitely fluctuates a bit in how old he's supposed to be, how experienced he's supposed to be in certain aspects. But ultimately, it serves the purpose of representing the many people who were hauled off to war a boy and are forced to return home a man. Radar is sweet and innocent and gentle and a lover of animals and earthworms.
I need it. It's good for you. It'll put fur on your chest. Atta boy.
He's thoughtful, and he's always trying to minimize harm and hurt, emotional and physical. And despite the hardship that he watches the camp face every day and is sort of a part of himself, it never hardens him to the world. It only makes him more open and more vulnerable, more willing to stick his own neck out there for others. He spent the past few years essentially running the 4077, and when he is ultimately discharged, he has to return home to do the same for his mother and the farm. One of the most iconic props in the entire show is Radar's teddy bear, which he leaves behind in his cot, a literal and symbolic ending to his childhood. Not that he hasn't been an adult the entire time. He's been there because, yeah, technically he's 18, 19, maybe 20 throughout the show.
I done and did everything you told me to done and do, sir.
Relax, Radar. Smoke if you've got 'em.
I'm just a kid, sir.
But he has, to a degree, lost the innocence of childhood. He is still gentle. He's still kind. He's still all of the things that make him the person that we love. But he's no longer naive. There's a great episode in, I want to say season 6, where he kind of has this like earth-shattering moment when he realizes that the surgeons, who he considers his heroes, are still people and they're still fallible like everybody else. There are a lot of reasons to love Radar. I just didn't want you guys to get upset at me for not talking about it.
He's probably halfway to Hawaii by now.
I don't want to think about it anymore.
Hey, boys.
Yeah, what? Goodbye, Radar.
To love MASH is to truly love a cornerstone of television history and arguably storytelling history as a whole. Again, the modern mind, the mind that exists in the world of streaming cannot even begin to comprehend how big of a cultural phenomenon this show was. At its height of popularity, over half the households that had a TV were tuning in to watch it every week. That is a level of monoculture that has significantly fragmented since. And the reason that I'm bringing this up again is because the popularity gave it so much more power than would have otherwise been possible had it not existed exactly when it did. In the 70s and early 80s, TV was still finding its footing as a medium for expression. Movies were already doing a lot of creative things, but television really hadn't made all that much progress in either its depth of storytelling or its structural use. Studios, who of course had their own interests in mind, weren't all that open to the idea of breaking convention, but MASH, again, had the power to just kind of do what they wanted. Even in early seasons, they were already pushing boundaries when they could. Stakes were raised to levels previously unseen, such as character death, which, despite being commonplace in movies, simply was not happening on TV. Unless literally the actor died in real life, characters were not dying in TV, and MASH changed that.
I've lost the pulse.
I'm going to open the chest. Give me a knife. I said, give me a knife.
Pierce. Go help McIntyre. Come on, move. We're jammed up in here.
Henry, I know why I'm crying now. Tommy was my friend, and I watched him die, and now I'm crying. I've watched guys die almost every day. Why didn't I ever cry for them?
Because you're a doctor.
The hell does that mean?
I don't know. If I had the answer, I'd be at the Mayo Clinic. Does this place look like the Mayo Clinic? Look, all I know is what they taught me at command school. There are certain rules about a war. And rule number 1 is young men die. And rule number 2 is doctors can't change rule number 1.
They were making so much money by season 5 and beyond that they could get away with pretty much anything they possibly wanted. And lucky for all of us, they continued to try new things and expand the formulaic expectations of TV. I am being so serious when I say that MASH can be traced back directly as one of the reasons that highbrow prestige television like Severance or The Sopranos or Breaking Bad exists at all. Say thank you to MASH that we have high concept TV. Taking liberties with higher, less literal concepts, seasons 7 to 9 in particular brought us some standout episodes that played with possibility. Arguably, the first example of this is actually showcased in the season 4 finale and my personal favorite episode of the entire show, called The Interview. The entire episode is filmed in black and white and hosted by the real-life war correspondent who was a war correspondent in World War II and the Korean War, Cleet Roberts.
Now, the concept of treating wounded close to the front, this particular hospital is just 3 miles from the fighting, is being tested for the first time. And if anything can be said to be a success in war, it is this concept. By bringing the wounded directly to the operating table by jeep, ambulance, and helicopter, these units have achieved an effectiveness of 97%. In human terms, 97 out of every 100 wounded men brought here live. Who are the people behind that most impressive statistic? We brought our camera and our microphones here to find out.
He interviews everybody at MASH, and it's sort of framed as like a program that they're going to take the footage from to show people at home to explain what's really going on. But the appearance of more extreme examples of this does begin in season 7, episode 10, titled Point of View.
How you doing, partner? You got a reservation? Okay, sir, I'll take this end. For the big guy, radar. That's okay, just don't take any of those giant steps of yours. All right, 1, 2, 3, up. Oh, you got it.
The entire episode is, quite literally, filmed from the point of view of a patient who's recovering at MASH from a throat wound.
Okay, now I know everybody's telling you that you're going to be okay, but you're really going to. So just relax. Move out now. Let's go.
We see our familiar cast from a perspective that we never have before. Our character fades in and out of consciousness while the 4077 operates around them, with lines delivered directly into the camera when being spoken to.
No, the whole blood is over here for him. Bring a unit for me. Straight up, no ice. Hi there, I'm Captain Pierce. What do you think of me so far? Okay, now just relax. I only want to look under your bandage. Army regulations, you could be hiding a Jeep. Hey, Beach? You got a second? Come here, take a look at this.
That's very good. That's very nice.
Oh, yeah, we've already met. Hold on, the chopper.
Step into my office. Don't worry, we really are doctors.
That's very good.
All right, we were talking about you.
It's a really beautiful episode filled with an array of real human experience, whether that be a doctor comforting us while we fearfully try to gather what happened, or annoyance at a bunkmate who won't shut up, or embarrassment from the vulnerability of having a beautiful nurse give you a sponge bath when you're incapable of bathing yourself. And 22 years before Kiefer Sutherland, who, by the way, son of Donald Sutherland, who played President Snow, but also played Hawkeye in the movie version of MASH that came out before the show, which was based on a book that came out before either of them. Anyways, 22 years before Kiefer Sutherland starred on the show 24, MASH took its own stab at real-time format in Season 8, Episode 11, titled Lifetime. Written and directed, again, by Alan Alda, this 25-minute episode features a real-time clock that remains in the corner of the screen for the entire duration of the episode.
We cut off the blood to the spinal cord for more than 20 minutes. He stands a good chance of winding up paralyzed. What time is it?
14:32, sir.
All right, let's go!
There is a palpable sense of urgency as we literally watch time dwindling. The doctors are desperately trying to keep one man alive while waiting anxiously for another who is already brain dead but whose body could provide life-saving organs to die.
You bastard. You've just been waiting to use him. You don't care who he is or anything about him. He's just a piece of meat to you.
Listen, Roberts. There's a boy in the OR who's gonna die because part of the artery that comes out of his heart has been shot away.
And what makes that guy more important than Harold Sherwood?
You gotta understand this. Most of your friend's brain is gone. He stopped being Harold Sherwood when that shell hit him in the head. He's been dead for half an hour. His heart just didn't know enough to stop beating.
It's a devastating and morally complex episode that highlights the very real strains that, quote, meatball surgery, as all the surgeons like to call it, puts on a doctor's Hippocratic oath, and the ways that gruesome reality of wartime forces people to make compromises that they shouldn't need to confront at all.
Isn't it enough he died? Did they have to cut him up like that?
Son, let me ask you something. Harold sounds like the kind of a man who gave of himself. Do you think he could have thrown himself on a grenade to save someone else?
Sure he would. He wouldn't even think about it.
Even if he didn't know the other person?
Sure.
Well, that's what he's doing now.
Perhaps the most abstract of these experimental episodes is Season 8, Episode 22, titled Dreams. Dreams is exactly what it sounds like. It's a surrealist series of vignettes that let us peek into the psyches of our crew while they carve out moments to doze. These dream sequences don't attempt to make any more sense than actual dreams tend to. They're simply fragments of the subconscious, bodies working hard in their rest to reconcile, process, and repair the strain their minds face while they're awake. Margaret finds herself in a wedding dress soaked in blood, while her lucid counterpart works hard to find her true self for the first time, but is inhibited by circumstance. Colonel Potter escapes to a happier time and place atop his horse at home in Missouri with his wife, wistfully looking towards his approaching retirement that taunts him in the meantime.
Sherman Potter! Dinner time!
Father Mulcahy gets carried into the mess tent as a pope. And Charles tap dances in the operating room. And there are others still, like Season 9, Episode 6, A War for All Seasons, which condenses an entire year into a single episode and makes commentary on the cyclical nature of conflict. In Season 10, Episode 10, titled Follies of the Living, Concerns of the Dead, Klinger battles a deadly fever and becomes the only person who can see or hear a soul who is lost in the realm between his lifeless body and whatever waits for us beyond. Even if these aren't necessarily the episodes that you like or resonate the most with you, the experimentation was a vital probe into the question of what TV was capable of and the breadth of stories that it would be able to communicate to audiences. I might sound crazy when I say this, but I'm going to say it anyway, and I mean it in my heart and soul. I genuinely feel like it is appropriate to compare MASH's role in the landscape of contemporary television to Shakespeare's role in the landscape of contemporary theater. Like, sure, the stories weren't brand new, okay? But the ways that they were being told, and subsequently the audiences that they were bringing into the fold, would seriously disrupt and reshape the landscape of entertainment on the whole, and continue to do so for years after. I was pretty early into my first watch through of the series when I knew that I was going to need to make a video about this, because I literally could not shut up about it to anyone and everyone who would listen for even a moment. And normally when I can't stop making it everybody else's problem, that's my cue to know that it's time to make it your problem. By the time I finished the show, and then even after I finished it and I kind of restarted it again, I wasn't quite sure what the angle was. Like, I didn't know what this video was going to be, or the story that I was going to try to tell with it. Because where do you even begin about a show that already says everything? I didn't really have an answer, but I did know that staring at the blank page and hoping something would appear is never gonna be the way that an answer appears for me. So I just kept consuming, right? I kept watching it, I kept thinking about it while my life continued around me, and when I still felt like I was hitting a dead end, I turned to Alan Alda, who in many ways is the public face that held the beating heart of the show. Every time I make a video, I am learning new things just by the nature of how I approach making something like this. But often the things that I'm learning are facts. They're interesting facts, but they're just facts at the end of the day. This is the first video I've made where I feel like the process of creating it, I've learned lessons. And not in like a heavy-handed after-school special type of way. I'm talking about lessons with very practical, methodical techniques on how to live a more connected and more communicative life.
I think we have, probably all of us, a desire, and a kind of a inherited desire to make contact with other people, and yet we have this tendency toward anonymity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as soon as we got cars, we moved away from our families.
Isn't that interesting? And as soon as we got our phones, we stopped talking.
We stopped talking to anybody.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. And yet we are hungry for contact.
We are. They say to never meet your heroes, but Alan Alda really is that guy, so I guess he is the exception. He is just as smart and funny and kind as you want him to be, even as he celebrated his 90th birthday a couple weeks ago as of recording this. He is also arguably one of the best and most vocal feminist allies the women's liberation movement ever had, which we'll talk about later. Ally, okay? Looking into it a bit more though, I discovered a whole second act to his career. So I ended up reading all 3 of his books. Well, I listened to the audiobooks that he self-narrates while I worked on this sweater that I have finished and am wearing, which funny enough, I was working on it. I had started it before I started the MASH binge, and then I was working on it during the MASH binge. This is what I was knitting. And then I get to season 8 and I realize, oh my god, wait, it looks just like the sweater that Margaret wears a ton in season 8. That's so slay. We're literally twins. Literally twins.
Klinger, time has come. Oh, sorry, Major, didn't know you were here.
What the hell are you supposed to be?
This happens to be the finest in autumn hunting attire from Abercrombie & Fitch.
Well, you look like an overgrown bagpipe.
Yeah.
His first memoir is called Never Have Your Dog Stuffed, and it is a funny and vulnerable reflection on the complexities of his early life, from his youngest years spent with his parents in a traveling burlesque show, to the difficulty he faced navigating a relationship with his well-meaning but severely schizophrenic mother, and then eventually feeling like he'd found footing on his own, going so far as getting cast in MASH in the early years of that. His second book is called Things I Overheard While Talking to Myself. It's also a memoir, but it's formatted as a sort of like annotated compilation of things he had said in speeches, written pieces that he hadn't finished, etc., where he gives additional context and meaning, building this sort of layered relationship with his own mind across time. It's a really cool way to like go about writing a memoir, I think. The storytelling isn't so much a look back at experiences as it is a reflection of lessons learned. But the most surprising was his book from 2017 titled If I Understood You, Would I Have This Look on My Face? My Adventures in the Art and Science of Relating and Communicating. I did buy this on eBay. It happens to be an autographed copy, which I was very excited about. However, that was before he became my close personal friend, so it's like mildly less exciting now just because, again, the close personal friend part. Yeah, there we go.
First of all, I want to say happy birthday. Something I like asking people is what age they feel in their head.
I have a different way of doing it. I think of it as an acting exercise.
Okay.
I'm now playing the part of a balding 90-year-old.
I think that's a great way to look at it.
I'm doing pretty good at it. I mean, it almost looks real.
You had me fooled.
How about you? What age are you inside?
Hello, hello. It is me in the relatively far future, actually. I was writing this video in December, January. I recorded it in mid-February. It is currently May. It's currently May. Hopefully you guys get to see this by June. Guess we'll see, won't we? That said, I wanted to pop on here for a second because up to this point, everything that I've been working with to edit and put this video out into the world was something that was curated and created for me by my past self. And I feel like this is the moment where my past self and my present self are no longer perfectly aligned, and I need to talk about it a little bit, actually. When I was like thinking of this section, I was thinking of it as a cool experience that I would get to have as a consequence of creating this, that I would then be able to share with you guys, and ultimately it would be part of the content show that I'm putting out. But I was kind of thinking of it as like a mid-video reveal, something that would be like a crazy bomb drop to get people interested in what I'm saying again if they started to doze off a little bit. And you know, it's one thing to have an interaction with a celebrity and then talk about it online. It's an entirely different thing to talk about my experience with a celebrity when that is literally my friend. That's literally my friend, and I can already hear you guys saying, holy parasocial, and admittedly, yeah, okay, a little bit parasocial. At the very least, that's literally my acquaintance. He knows my name. He knows my face. He shared intimate details and memories because of questions that I asked. He asked me questions before I even had a chance to talk with him, okay? One of the jokes that I was going to make, that I had planned to make about this experience was actually, it was going to be 2 truths and a lie, with the category being incredibly specific, unusual and specific. And I was going to do a cool thing that my dad did as the lie, and then I was going to talk about something else. And then the other truth that I was going to have was the fact that Alan Alda asked me specifically to explain sweater sleeve construction to him. Because that is a real thing that happened that I think I might actually still share.
Okay, now I have a tough question for you.
Okay.
You get to the end of the sleeve, what do you do? How do you go back to the other sleeve?
You have the other stitches resting. So I have this hollow cord.
So you can reconnect with it.
Yeah, so I can slip my needles through.
Well, I think we've all learned something.
And I will say, making him laugh too, that was something that hit me. On one hand, I want to be perceived as funny. I like getting laughs. Surely I want to get laughs from people who've made me laugh. But the thing that was like unexpectedly moving about it was I felt like I had been given the chance and like the honor to give back. I'm being incredibly generous about my impact on his life here, but like give back even a moment of joy and levity that him and his work has provided to all of us. But that's my friend, and I feel very weird talking about him in that way now. And the reason that I'm sharing this with you at all, because frankly, I could have omitted it entirely and you guys would have been none the wiser. But I'm doing the scary, kind of vulnerable thing instead to talk about it at least a little bit, because I do feel that it emphasizes points that I'm going to be making, because I have a lot of good things to say about Alan Alda in this video, and I mean every word of them. However, when I said them, I meant them. I mean them 1,000 times more now. I'm not speaking conceptually here. I'm actually because the world is crazy, somehow I'm now speaking from experience. The world genuinely would be a better place if there were more men in it like Alan Alda. Alan had been a lifelong science enthusiast and was approached by PBS in the 90s to be a host for a new show called Scientific American Frontiers, which went on to run for I think 14 seasons. He jumped on the idea under the condition that his hosting would take the form of actual on-site interviewers, not scripted voiceovers, which according to him sounded really boring both to produce and to watch.
Called me up or wrote me a letter and said, would you like to be the host of this show?
Right.
And I realized they probably wanted me to introduce the episode and then disappear and read a narration.
Right.
And I'm crazy about science, always have been. And I said, look, I'd be interested in doing it if I could interview the scientists, because then I'd spend the whole day with them and I'd really understand new stuff.
Right.
So in this trial by fire, he immediately ran into 3 problems. Number 1, he realized he had no idea how to interview people. At all. No clue. Number 2, he discovered that the scientists that he was trying to interview also didn't know how to talk about their work or to effectively answer the questions being asked, which meant number 3, he didn't understand enough to then prompt more intelligible answers. But you gotta figure out how to do this shit quickly if you're thrown in the deep end, so he realized that he could employ the improv skills that he developed from his acting career to improve communication as an interviewer, making people comfortable to let their guard down and give him real human answers to real human questions.
I realized that what I was doing in the interviews made them not conventional interviews. They were conversations. And what I was doing was making use of my experience as an improviser. I was connecting with them.
Right.
And when somebody connected with them as a human and said, I don't know what you're talking about, we could make it clearer for me, I can't get it, make me understand it.
Right.
Then they stopped worrying about the camera. They stopped thinking about the lecture.
Saying
that
it
they
right.
Saying it in the utter detail that only another scientists in that field could recognize. They were talking to me, and the real them came out. So it was a human experience. And when I got it, that was a TV moment, you know, something happened.
Through the show, he spent years surrounded by scientists, learning about their work, and through the many contacts he made, he began to do some science of his own. The hypothesis was that putting scientists through the type of improv workshops that he attended as an actor could help them become better communicators, and that would help make better science. And not just from the storytelling perspective of like, how can I get people to understand enough to care about my research, to give me money to fund it, but also how to improve communication between scientists in different fields. And long story short, the answer is that yeah, it does work, and it works almost immediately. I'm skipping through a ton here because this was over years of doing stuff, but he ended up developing a curriculum and led workshops to help train people, and this led to the establishment of the Alda Center for Communicating Science at Stony Brook University in New York in 2009. It's really fascinating to hear him talk about improv.
I really do approach my life like an improvisation. I have very few long-term goals. I mean, I do have a long-term goal for the Center for Communicating Science, which is world domination.
Once you notice it, you'll see it leak into pretty much everything that he does, not just since this epiphany that he landed on, but also before it. For example, I'm going to take this excerpt from when he's describing different varieties of improv games that they'll use. Once people are used to the idea of working with the imaginary substance of space, walking around in it and building sculptures out of pure air, they'll stand in a circle and one person will shape an object in her hands and pass it to the person next to her. He has to observe how she handles the object to know what it is. She'll use an egg beater differently from a golf club, but his only clue is observing her motions as she uses it. When he takes it from her, he has to handle it in a way that shows he knows exactly what it is, including its size and weight. Because it's invisible, it exists only by common agreement. Suddenly, everyone is seeing things that weren't there before. I've seen astonishment on people's faces as they watch a volleyball game with 5 people on each side of a net that isn't there. They're batting a non-existent ball back and forth, and yet they can keep score. They're absolutely clear about who won or who lost a point, because they can see precisely where the imaginary ball is at every moment. This excerpt made me think of a fan-favorite episode from season 1 called Tuttle. The premise here is that Hawkeye and Trapper redirect some resources under the table to help out— oh my god, my cats have the zoomies. Hawkeye and Trapper redirect some resources under the table to help out a group of orphans, and when the army comes knocking to figure out where those resources went, they invent a fake officer to blame as a fall guy. Over the course of the episode, the imaginary Tuttle becomes more and more real to everybody in the camp, including the very people who are making him up. It culminates in Tuttle being killed in action and dying as he lived. A hero. No one ever met him because he was never real, and yet the more people became aware of him, the more real he became. A man who didn't exist to take a single breath made a lasting impact on the lives of real people.
We can all be comforted by the thought that he's not really gone. That there's a little Tuttle left in all of us. In fact, you might say that all of us together made up Tuttle.
I'll never forget him.
Our grief will pass. It's already hard to remember exactly how Johnny looked, how he talked, his little laugh. Thankfully, he's left behind a memorial. I've been informed by radar that Captain Tuttle's GI insurance named Sister Teresa's orphanage as his sole beneficiary. How typical. We salute you, Captain Tuttle. Humanitarian and healer. Good luck, Doctor. In that great big waiting room in the sky.
He was the best MOD we ever had.
We need to talk a little bit more deeply about representation. In my desperate midnight search to get my MASH fix, I came across something else on Internet Archive, which was a book published in 1998 by a university professor called Watching MASH, Watching America. Now, I read the first 100 or so pages on Internet Archive before I decided I liked it enough to order a physical copy so that I could annotate it and talk about it in this video. In many ways, it did feel like a spiritual predecessor to my own zine about the Hunger Games. That is to say, an academic talking about their special interest through the lens of their field of study. There's a lot of great stuff in this book, and I do want to make that clear before I go further. Okay, the general premise is to reflect on the ways that TV and entertainment reflect a culture at a moment in time as opposed to independently influencing it. About 3/4 of the book is the author going year by year and comparing what was happening on the production side of the show to what was happening in real world politics and culture to what was happening on screen. A lot of really fascinating stuff, some great observations. Okay. Unfortunately, I do have some new academic beef. All right, because he really lost me with some of the interpretations that oh my God. Because after he finishes this play-by-play, then he draws some conclusions. I mentioned in the beginning that while the show sometimes leans into harmful tropes in early seasons, it does make major steps to reverse that as time goes on. In no character is this more evident than it is with Margaret Houlihan. Loretta Swit, who played Margaret, is the only main female cast member of the ensemble, and she mostly spends the early years feeding into this, like, weird sexual military mommy Madonna Dom relationship with Frank.
Margaret, you're so good for me. You just have to talk and it gets my gumption up.
Just a big grown-up boy, aren't you? Take a gun along, Frank.
And is otherwise just sort of siding with him to stand against Hawkeye's antics and lick the Army's boots. In the first season, she actually doesn't even have a real name and was referred to only as Hot Lips. A strike during production of season 2 or 3? Either 2 or 3. I want to say season 2. Created some roadblocks, but the solution that they landed on to sort of get around these fundamentally changed not just the direction of the characters, but the function of the actors within the show as a whole. They were given the opportunity to input their own ideas about their characters, suggest storylines, and even later direct episodes, and generally take a more active role in the show's production. These therapy sessions, as showrunner Larry Gilbert called them, would be the basis upon which the show would be built for the rest of its run. It was through Loretta Swit's guidance that Hot Lips became Margaret, and Margaret became one of the most dynamic and ever-growing characters in the show. Over the course of its 11 seasons, Margaret goes from longtime Army brat and stickler for the rules to a driven head nurse who's brave and courageous, to a love-struck fiancé, to a resentful wife, to a divorcee fighting for her financial independence and agency, to a sexually liberated woman who isn't looking for another man to hold her back, to an innovator in her field and a strong leader, and finally a true friend.
Major, I gotta tell you something. But if you repeat this to anyone, I'll deny it. You are my favorite officer in the whole U.S. Army.
Same goes for me, Major. You're aces.
Thank you, Corporal. Doctor.
The reason that I hated this dude's synthesis is his assertion that in later seasons, as the show changed with the times, the focus on individual characters and the way that war affects them, as opposed to the focus on greater military inefficiency, means that the show lost its edge entirely and was just feeding into the self-centeredness of a personal growth epidemic that was overtaking a period of activism. Here's the thing. Kind of half right. Okay, it's a good observation, all right? But this point, as well as his heinous takes on mental health, he gets the conclusions so very wrong. Okay, I'm so sorry, I can't recommend this book. There was a couple moments in the meat of this book where I was kind of like, when he was talking about feminism and the women's liberation movement. It wasn't anything like noticeable enough to be like, this dude's a misogynist. It would be really subtle. Like, he would be speaking assertively about facts and what was happening. Okay, he'd be like, this and this and this. And then he would get to, like, something about women, and the framing of it would shift ever so slightly to be like, women of the time maintain that XYZ. When reality, like, XYZ thing is just objectively true as everything else he's been saying. But then I got to the part where he just outright says that things such as developing Margaret's character was proof that the show didn't care about political commentary anymore. What? Like, you're talking about women's place in society, women's liberation, the women's movement, the fact that a couple years after the show came out is when we could independently have bank accounts, and, like, you don't think that that's political? You don't think that... Okay, got it. This guy, I realized it suddenly clicked into place. This dude literally doesn't know shit about feminism as an ideology or a movement. He only knows events surrounding the movement as they would appear in a newspaper. And I actually went and I checked in his appendices and his sources, and not a single source that he has about the women's liberation movement is actual literature about the ideology of feminism and the women's liberation movement. It's just newspapers and events. So that just completely discredited a lot of the shit that he had to say. The worst part is, it actually would have been fine if he just, like, didn't talk about it. Like, if he had just not talked about it, I wouldn't have been complaining about it. It's just he spent way too much of the book talking about shit that he didn't understand. That now I'm like, well, now I have to be mad because you're wrong. You could have just been quiet instead of being wrong. I will say something really depressing about reading this book was hearing him talk about how much things have progressed for women since the show was coming out, and simultaneously me reading it, knowing how much has regressed since the book came out. Because, you know, Roe v. Wade, so many fucking, oh my God. And you want to know who was at the front lines of that fight for women's equality and traveling around the country to make pleas to crowds and congressmen about the necessity of it for a full decade, and who wasn't even mentioned until literally the third time that it was brought up in this book, which in retrospect probably should have been another red flag for me? It was Alan Alda. It was Alan Alda. Alan motherfucking Alda. Outspoken feminist, and a title gifted to him by the Boston Globe, an honorary woman.
In 1976, the Boston Globe went and dubbed you honorary woman, right? Feminist icon. And I was thinking,
that was wonderful, but I can't tell you, you know, menopause has been hell.
Really, tell me about it.
If you are a male ally who actually cares about women and wants to further the cause, I'm begging you to take notes.
I was really outspoken as a feminist and as a proponent of the Equal Rights Amendment. And I spent about 10 years, when I wasn't in front of the camera on MASH, making speeches, traveling around, lobbying state legislatures. So I got known as that. And after a while, I got the nickname of being a wimp.
No.
There was even a cover of a magazine that called me the king of the wimps.
Because you were...
Well, it was a backlash against feminism.
Right.
I wanted to be of help. I saw that if a man expressed these views, it could be very helpful for other men to listen and for women to feel that there could be allies among men. Why I get so angry when I see the inequality. It's more than half the world is assumed to be inferior to the minority in the world. You know, it's not right, and it's not true.
This is from an article written in January of 1982, when the deadline for ratification was quickly approaching. Alan was working overtime and making a ton of appearances because it was looking more and more like it wasn't going to reach the necessary minimum, which it didn't, and still hasn't. And again, in an example of reading something that's incredibly depressing because it's like things are the same or worse, quote, Alda said, "I need for my family the chance for my daughters not to have to shop around for a state to live in for the rights that I have automatically because I'm a man." 14 states, he said, have passed equal rights laws for women, which are similar to the ERA, demonstrating the need for the constitutional amendment to provide that protection nationwide. The clear signal of a constitutional amendment would put the government and courts on notice that any barrier to sexual equality is illegal.
To realize the many ways in which men and women were not equal before the law got me angry.
Discounting contentions that such laws already exist, he says, if the most conservative members of the Supreme Court say it's not there, I guess I'm safe to say it. Alda, who jets between homes in New Jersey and California and has 4 Emmys to his credit, conceded that it may seem as if he personally has little to gain through its passage. The way things stand now, he said, my wife and daughter have nothing to worry about. But if something were to happen to me and my money, or if I died or turned my wife out for a younger model like so many men do, where would she be? She'd be stuck without the ERA. Why should we organize things so women have to be dependent on men? He asked. The strongest effect I can have is to be as informed as I can, he said. Not because I have cute dimples or because people like all the jokes I tell on TV. As the show went on, breaking for a moment. As the show went on, women were still victims of misogyny on occasion. The difference is that the misogynists became the butt of the joke, not the women. Alan Alda actually won an Emmy for an episode that he wrote and directed called Inga, where Hawkeye and Charles sort of take turns putting their feet in their mouths with their inability to comprehend that a woman can be smart and beautiful and an independently capable surgeon too.
Come off it, Pierce. You can't stand it. I saw you in there seething with resentment.
What are you, nuts? She's a doctor. She had a better procedure and she showed us.
Charles, why do you insist on seeing the worst in people?
What I didn't like was the way she did it.
On the other hand?
No, really. She could have shown a little more consideration. She could have done it quietly. All of a sudden, she's in an amphitheater. I was about as useful in there as an umbrella stand.
So that's all that bothered you, huh? The way she did it.
Yeah.
I've got a big piece of news for you, Captain. Charles is right. The fact that she's a woman is what gets you.
You must be kidding.
Oh, you love the women. As long as they're cute and charming and following orders, you're happy as a clam. You're fine with the handmaidens, but let a woman be an equal. Really makes your hair fall out, doesn't it?
Margaret, could you find a better simile?
The article continues. I'm very ashamed of the fact that the jokes and situations in early episodes were demeaning towards women, he said. We've made jokes about rape, and there's nothing funny about rape. He said those programs came at a time of greater sex discrimination than now, adding that now, when the character Hawkeye acts in a boyish, insensitive way towards women, there's always somebody there to put him in his place.
When you hear about abuse or harassment, we should all be equally upset by it, and all look for ways to eliminate it.
Alda reiterated ERA proponents' claims that women in America earn 59 cents for every dollar paid to men, saying the average male high school dropout earns $1,600 more than the average female college graduate. I'll tell you how things have changed, he said. In 1955, women made 64 cents for every dollar. The amendment has not been ratified, he said, because of a fear campaign launched by opponents and economic considerations. There are people, companies in this country that stand to gain through the reduced status of women. Every time they hire a woman, they save 41 cents, he said. Alda turned the ERA the only cause to which he publicly devotes his attention and conceded that he is all but consumed by it because it's so important for all of us. But it wasn't just women who felt represented on screen in a way that they never had before. Mostly on accident, but once pretty early on and very much on purpose, MASH was also far ahead of its time for queer representation. The on purpose part was an episode from season 2 titled George, where a soldier shows up in Frank's care with a leg wound, but seems to have bruising on his upper body as well, as if he'd been in a fist fight. He ends up confessing to Hawkeye that he got drunk with his unit and accidentally confessed that he was gay, and they brutally beat him because of it. Technically, this could earn him a dishonorable discharge, but he insists that he wants to go back and finish his tour of duty no matter what, which Hawkeye is like, dude, take the discharge. But Frank catches wind and keeps saying just how disgusting men like him are.
I think it's disgusting.
What business is it of yours, Frank?
He refuses to treat George as his patient anymore because of his sexuality and opens a case for discharge, but is ultimately prevented through some clever antics and good old-fashioned blackmail from the other surgeons.
Sir, a non-heterosexual. Frank, why are you telling me this? Has the man made a pass at you, at me, at anyone?
Queerness isn't explicitly supported in this episode per se, but anti-queerness is explicitly ridiculed over and over again.
What should be quarantined is Frank's mind, if we can find something small enough to put it in.
Regarding the more accidental, we have Klinger. Klinger makes the occasional appearance in seasons 1 and 2, but becomes a series regular by season 3. His character is that of an unsuccessful draft dodger in a proud line of draft dodgers, I might add, who is trying to prove he's crazy by wearing women's clothing in order to get a Section 8 discharge.
I always figured if I had a daughter, I'd want her to wear that gown. My Uncle Zach used it to get out of World War I.
As the story goes, the character was originally written to be played as an effeminate gay man for laughs, but Jamie Farr, the actor who was cast, suggested that instead he play him completely straight. A gay man acting as a gay man stereotype was seen as less crazy than a straight man willingly and even enthusiastically abandoning traditional masculinity. See what I mean about hearts being in the right place? This single choice did something magical in shielding this character from aging poorly. Since Klinger plays the whole thing so straight, so does everybody else. His expression of gender isn't just tolerated, it's openly affirmed as normal. Again and again.
Colonel, I've got to talk to you right away.
Klinger, go put on a dress.
Pardon me, sir. Did you call me Klinger?
If you aren't Klinger, who the Sam Hill are you?
Sam Hill, maybe.
I am Zoltan, king of the gypsies.
He just made my day.
There's actually more than one occasion as the show goes on that Potter buys Klinger special fabrics while he's in Tokyo on R&R for him to make new outfits. There's also this really beautiful scene between Klinger and Sidney Friedman, the psychiatrist, later in the show, where he expresses concern that maybe he is, in fact, crazy. But instead, his actions are met with compassion and understanding from the audience and the other characters as well.
I look at myself in the mirror lately and I see this guy in earrings, pillbox hat, veil, maybe a little choker of pearls. And I ask myself, would a sane man dress like this? I'm trying to convince them and I'm convincing myself.
You're actually worried?
Major, I think I'm really going nuts. Gina Lollobrigida used to make me drool. And last week I looked at a picture of this beautiful, voluptuous woman and all I could think of was, how could she wear a peasant blouse with a tweed skirt?
Why do you want to get out of here?
Why? Well, there's lots of reasons. I guess death tops the list. I don't want to die. And I don't want to look at other people while they do it. And I don't want to be told where to stand while it happens to me. And I don't want to be told how to do it to somebody else. And I ain't gonna, period. That's it. I'm getting out.
Listen, Klinger, you're not crazy.
I'm not? Really?
You're a tribute to man's endurance. A monument to hope in size 12 pumps. I hope you do get out someday. There would be a battalion of men in hoop skirts right behind you.
In later seasons, they eventually phased out Klinger's cross-dressing, mostly because Jamie Farr's kids were getting old enough to be bullied about it at school. But the show never fully erases the history of the character. And a nice trade-off is that when the feminine outfits fade, the character is instead more open about his Lebanese heritage and culture. So I feel like it evens out because, yeah, we're losing, like, queer representation, but we're gaining Middle Eastern representation. And then finally we have the more incidental queer representation. Mike Farrell said the following about his iconic late 70s look. I wore what started as a red long shirt. Through many washes, it came out pink. I thought it was hilarious to be wearing a pink shirt in the middle of all of that. I got many comments from people in the gay community who tell me they loved my pink shirt and asked if it was a signal. I tell them it wasn't, but I'm glad they noticed it.
Yoo-hoo, I'm home. Howdy, stranger. New in town?
Hello from the distant future again. It's almost June. Ooh, it's almost June. I don't know why I just can't bring myself to decide that this video is done and ready to send off in the world, but here I am, popping on again to talk a little bit more about the advocacy work of some of the other cast members, because it was certainly not just Alan Alda. Mike Farrell, who plays BJ, was also heavily involved in the movement to abolish the death penalty nationwide. He is currently, like right now, the co-chair emeritus. Never heard that word said out loud. You guys know what I mean, I think. For the California Committee of Human Rights Watch. He has been an advocate for refugee aid. He's been on the front lines of many different conflicts, providing aid, including Cambodia, some portions of the USSR. He was in Mexico, I believe. I have like the website pulled up. Like, he has done a lot and also continues to do a lot. But I wanted to talk for a second about Billy Christopher and his wife Barbara, who
Billy plays the Padre, and actually Barbara has a little cameo in the episode Movie Tonight, I believe, where her and Billy actually sing a little duet as part of the episode, which is very sweet.
When you're all dressed up and no place to go, life seems weary, dreary, and slow. My heart has ached and bled for the tears I've shed when I'd no place to go unless I went back to bed.
But I wanted to talk for a second about the book that they wrote together in the late 80s called Mixed Blessings, which is about their experience raising their adopted autistic son, Ned. Now, if you don't already know this, you should probably already know this, but I'm autistic myself, so I'm talking about this as like part of the in-group. The book itself doesn't like purport to be information about autism or like therapies of autism or anything like that, although that is the contents of it. It's ultimately just a reflection on their personal experience with their son and the profound expression of love that they had for him and all of the things that they went through to try to provide as good a life as could be possible for him. They were pretty damn progressive. At first they're like, our son can't be autistic, he's too smart. Eventually they came around to like, okay, he is autistic and he's smart. And so then it became them trying to convince other people who see the autism label and they're like, oh, well, he's dumb, he can't do anything. And they're like, no, our son is intelligent. And in fact, he has a much better experience when he is being given vigorous instruction in cultural topics. And he does better when he gets the chance to be active. And yes, there were like behaviors that they wanted to cure, but ultimately it was always about just giving him as best a life as he could possibly have while still being himself. They weren't trying to change him. They were trying to give him a life that would allow him to function in society. And when he was, as expected, subjected to incredibly questionable and sometimes violent methods of curing him, they looked at that and they said, I don't think that's right. That doesn't feel right to me. I don't care if you're a professional. And they pulled him out of those situations. When they found treatment options that actually helped him, they pushed for those to be further expanded upon. When you realize like some of the stuff that they tried throughout the years, the amount of time and resources and patience and willpower that they put into doing their best for him, I mean, ultimately the entire book, it's just, here are two parents who really love their son. I don't know if they themselves would take credit for like being advocates for autism awareness and like autism research and acceptance. And yet functionally, they were absolutely doing that through their dedication to their son. And I think that's really beautiful. And the point that I'm getting at with this little addition, the second one in this video, is that I'm sure that if I continue to follow rabbit holes down every single cast member's personal life, I would find even more instances of them doing incredible work for issues that are very important. And ultimately, I think that that really shows and proves that this was a show that was made by a really great group of people, and I think that that comes through as you're watching it.
But what happens when your philosophical values aren't enough to sustain you? You have to look to each other and lean on your friends. You address the immediate. You make your own community a little better, a little stronger, and a little more resilient. Sometimes when the big problems are too far out of your reach, actions that don't change anything on the large scale still make big impacts on the small scale, which in turn makes long-term big impacts on the large scale.
You see how loony they're getting?
You know, this may be just what they need.
Major, when people are suffering from overwork, do you usually prescribe arson?
They don't want to burn the whole camp, just carefully selected bits of it. Actually, it's a pretty controlled response to this place.
All right, let me have your attention. I am reversing my previous order. You are hereby directed to assemble one regulation bond-type fire.
I was trying to think of an analogy here, and the only thing coming to mind was losing the battle but winning the war, which on top of feeling insensitive given the context also feels like kind of exactly the opposite of what I'm about to use as an example. Another one of my favorite episodes, Peace on Us. The camp is exhausted. Tensions are high and everyone is angry at their circumstances, at Margaret's ex-husband, at each other a little bit, just because they've been cooped up together for an inspecific, I can say that word. I wrote it, I can say it. Inspecific, non-linear amount of time. Sidebar here. The war lasted 3 years in real life, okay? The show lasted 11 years. The timeline of the episodes on the show, it just, what year is it? Who knows? Who knows? After Margaret and Hawkeye spend a minute yelling about their frustrations, kind of around each other, not necessarily at each other.
Out of my way, Pierce! I'm gonna kick every can in this...
Look, I don't know what you... Hey, I don't know what set you off, but I'm not in the mood.
Hawkeye decides that he just can't take it any longer, and instead of heading to bed, he commandeers the closest jeep and declares that he's going straight to the peace talks himself to give them a piece of his mind, with a manic energy that makes other people nervous and therefore allows him to get past way more checkpoints than he should have been able to.
Okay, men, I've arrived. Everything's gonna be fine.
Did somebody up here call for a doctor?
Doctor? Why am I the only one who knows what's going on here? Somebody in there is sick and sent for me. That's all I know.
And the sheer audacity over his right to put in his 2 cents, he does actually make it into the room where it happens.
You know what to do. Why can't you just do it? People are dying out there. You gotta stop it. You can't wait anymore. You can't. Now get back to work and don't make me come here again.
Peace doesn't come, and ultimately this excursion was fruitless, except that it wasn't. The sentiment, the camaraderie, feeling like at the very least your complaints are being heard. Morale matters more than we give it credit for. Joy is a necessary piece of survival. Laughter is life-giving and life-sustaining, and this group is already in the business of sustaining lives. So really, in this case, they're losing the war, but they just won their battle. And for now, that's all they need to keep going.
Fine, you got me. Good, great. But there's 1,000 other guys hustling out there. What are you gonna do, change the world?
No, just our little corner of it.
But someday you might be caught without your own will to go on, and without your community by your side to help carry you through. So your final defense is your humanity. In the season 9 premiere, Hawkeye is caught alone on his way to R&R and held at gunpoint by a North Korean who wants Hawkeye to save his dying friend. He tries the best he can, but ultimately isn't able to. With the language barrier, there's no way for Hawkeye to explain, and he assumes that it's over for him, that he'll die alone next to a patient who never had a chance, shot by a man whose anger at the loss is not only something that Hawkeye understands, but something that he, as a doctor, shares. Hawkeye watches as he begins to dig a grave, and under a shared blanket of despair, kneels down to help him dig. Now, I've kind of been skirting around it, but we're going to talk about the elephant in the room now. Because I won't lie to you guys, things are hard. Things are really rough right now in the world and in this country. I've been writing this over the course of about a month and a half now. And things have been ugly, and they've stayed ugly, and I'm sure they will continue to get uglier, because things often do.
War isn't hell. War is war and hell is hell. And of the two, war is a lot worse.
How do you figure that, Hawkeye?
Easy, Father. Tell me, who goes to hell?
Sinners, I believe.
Exactly. There are no innocent bystanders in hell. The war is chock full of them. Little kids, cripples, old ladies. In fact, except for a few of the brass, almost everybody involved is an innocent bystander.
Every time I pick up my phone, I see some new atrocity that somebody has found in the recent batch of Epstein files. And I see videos of ICE terrorizing anyone and everyone they feel like. And it makes me feel like absolute shit. I feel like every single day I am cycling between anger and despair, back to anger and despair all over again. It's just, it's relentless. It's so relentless. And yet, every single time I pick up my phone, I see all of those bad things. And also, I see evidence of resilience. I see middle schoolers and high schoolers standing up for their friends and organizing their own walkouts. In one of those videos, I also see the beautiful chaos unfold as kids run to beat out flames of a newly sparked fire. Just literally beating up the fire. In another video, I watched them absolutely walloping some guy who went after one of the girls. Can we not, please? Oh my God. The point is, alongside all of this terror that I'm seeing every day, I'm also seeing people fighting for their communities and protecting their neighbors and contributing however they can, because deep down, they know that tomorrow will come and we'll either be there to see the dawn of better days or we will go down fighting for them. I hear people singing in the streets and it makes me cry because it sounds joyful. It sounds optimistic in a world that breeds on pessimism and profits off of pessimism. Actually, can we talk about the profits of pessimism? I'm going to need a lot of people to be a lot less negative real quick. And I'm not saying this as an optimist, by the way. I'm very much a realist, but I feel like even realists are getting called naive by the onslaught of pessimists that seem to take over the narrative every time. And it's like, you're just doing the work of the oppressor. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you're just doing the work of the oppressor by perpetuating this idea that, like, nothing's going to change or everybody has to suffer in order for things to change, which many people will, okay? But the thing that keeps us going, the thing that keeps us fighting is joy and hope and community and laughter and all of the good things. Plenty of people a lot smarter than me have a lot of very nuanced commentary on the effectiveness of nonviolent resistance and performative activism, and that certainly has its place, okay? But also in the broad sense, any support is good support right now, and it's growing more difficult by the day to not feel the hope and the empowerment of a movement that is still on the upswing. More and more people are still getting involved. Imperfect action is always going to be better than no action. I have seen a lot of fellow creatives beginning to open up about their hesitation to be sharing their art right now, as if they don't want to be taking up space that could otherwise be occupied by more serious topics. I totally understand this, and honestly, I often feel the same. But I also believe, truly, deep down in my soul, that art is even more important during the bad times than it is during the good times.
When we get a chance to act, it's our job, at least in part, to get inside a character's head and to search for a way to see life from that person's point of view, another person's vision of the world, and then to let an audience experience that. It may never have been more urgent to see the world through another person's eyes. And when a culture is divided so sharply, actors can help, at least a little, just by doing what we do. It can't solve everything, but it wouldn't hurt.
Art, in whatever form that you prefer to create or to consume it, is a necessary piece of nourishment. When art isn't giving us hope, it is at the very least giving us catharsis, both of which are incredibly necessary things. They are the very things that help us go on and get through. Not to like lib out on you guys and be all live, laugh, love type of deal, but helpless people need hope and hopeless people can't help. Finding joy and beauty and laughter is a radical act in the face of systems that are fighting tooth and nail to drain us of everything that life has to offer, including the will to fight for it. This sentiment is perfectly encapsulated in two places that I would like to spotlight, one of them, of course, being an episode of MASH, Season 8, Episode 19, called Morale Victory. Everyone in camp is beaten and worn down and burnt the fuck out, as to be expected, as we're all feeling right now. To fight the effects of this emotional and physical exhaustion, Hawkeye and BJ are named morale officers by the colonel and put in charge of improving moods, which they do by throwing, of all things, a beach party.
Treat this with care. It's loaded with live crabs. I told him I was taking him to the circus.
Why'd you take your Foot Locker?
What's a beach party? Without beach?
Another one of those crabs.
This is the B plot, okay? Meanwhile, in the A plot, Charles... Well, arguably, maybe this part is the B plot. It doesn't matter. There are two things happening. The second one, Charles is doing his best to console one of his patients, who he had just performed a very technically difficult and impressive surgery on to save his leg from amputation. The caveat was that in prioritizing the leg, he didn't prioritize the much less severe, smaller injury on the man's right hand, leading to partial paralysis in the hand, like no longer having full control over it, but still having a hand and still having a functional hand. However, talking to this patient when he wakes up, Charles learns that he was a concert pianist, and Charles is a deep lover of classical music. It's like an ongoing joke because everybody else gets really annoyed by it, but that's like a thing that gives him life and purpose and joy and meaning. And so learning that his patient, he has through doing this procedure, has denied his patient the ability to do his life's work, his passion, he just can't let that happen.
Your hand may be stilled, but your gift cannot be silenced if you refuse to let it be.
Gift? You keep talking about this damn gift. I had a gift, and I exchanged it for some mortar fragments, remember?
Wrong. Because the gift does not lie in your hands. I have hands, David. Hands that can make a scalpel sing. More than anything in my life, I wanted to play, but I do not have the gift. I can play the notes, but I cannot make the music. You've performed Liszt, Rachmaninoff, Chopin. Even if you never do so again, you've already known a joy that I will never know as long as I live. Because the true gift is in your head, and in your heart, and in your soul. And you can shut it off forever, or you can find new ways to share your gift with the world, through the baton, the classroom, the pen. As to these works, they're for you. Because you and the piano will always be as one.
It's kind of like the greater thesis of this whole video, though, is that it is your duty. I'm going to say it. I believe that it is your duty to do the work that you were put on earth to do. And for some people, that is incredibly important frontline action, and that is necessary, and it needs to happen, okay? But just because that might not be your greatest strength doesn't mean that your greatest strength isn't valuable to movements. Artists, writers, we're needed. We are needed. In fact, it's kind of funny to think of, there's an episode in The Studio, in the show The Studio with Seth Rogen, where he goes on a date, like, to some event with this doctor, and listen, Is he right? No. Is he wrong? No. He's not wrong, okay? All of these surgeons, pompous fucking assholes, okay? Yes, the work that they do is incredibly important, but the way that they just scoff at the idea that the work that Seth Rogen's character does, which is to facilitate the creation of art, is the idea that that is important. They just can't comprehend. And the fact of the matter is, it is. It's not more important, but it is important. Anyways, the second thing that I would like to point to is actually the first article that the satire news source The Onion posted after 9/11. So I'm actually just going to read it to you. The following article, this was published September 26th of 2001, so a little over 2 weeks after 9/11. Headline: Not knowing what else to do, woman bakes American flag cake. Feeling helpless in the wake of the horrible September 11th terrorist attacks that killed thousands, Christine Pearson baked a cake and decorated it like an American flag Monday. I had to do something to force myself away from the TV, said Pearson, 33, carefully laying rows of strawberry slices on the white fudge frosting-covered cake. All of those people, those poor people, I don't know what else to do. Pearson, who has never before expressed feelings of patriotism in cake form, attributed the baking project to a loss of direction. Having already donated blood, mailed a check to the Red Cross, and sent a letter of thanks to the New York Fire Department, Pearson was aimlessly wandering from room to room in her apartment when the idea of creating the confectionery Stars and Stripes came to her. My friends Cassie and Patrick invited me over to have dinner and just talk about, everything, said Pearson, a Topeka legal secretary who has never visited and knows no one in either New York or Washington, D.C. I thought I'd make something special or do something out of respect for all those people who died, all those innocent people, all those rescue workers who lost their lives. Mixing the cake and placing it in the oven shortly after 3 p.m., Pearson sat at the kitchen table and stared at the oven door until the timer rang 50 minutes later. As the cake cooled, Pearson gathered materials to decorate it. She searched the spice cupboard for a half-used tube of blue food coloring, but could not find it. After frantically pulling out all the cans and jars from the cupboard, she finally found the tube in the very back. Emitting a deep sigh of relief, she spread the coloring over the cake's upper left-hand corner to create the flag's blue field. I baked a cake, said Pearson, shrugging her shoulders and forcing a smile as she unveiled the dessert in the Overstreet household later that evening. I made it into a flag. Pearson and the Overstreets stared at the cake in silence for nearly a minute, until Cassie hugged Pearson. It's beautiful, Cassie said. The cake is beautiful. Whether or not we're willing to come to terms with it, everything in the known universe is made up of a series of never-ending cycles. And these cycles occur on every scale and in every corner of our existence, embedded in ways we are aware of every day and in ways that we're not. There's the water cycle, the Krebs cycle, life cycles, bicycles, bisexuals, bipedals, dung beetles.
I'll carry your books, I'll carry a torch, I'll carry a tune, I'll carry on, carry over, carry forward, carry Grant, cash and carry me back to old Virginia. I'll even Harry carry if you show me how, but I will not carry a gun.
Whether you prefer to say that history repeats or that it rhymes, it too is a cycle, from peace to war and back again. And not to make literally everything come back to Hadestown, but it's an old song, it's a love song, it's a sad song from way back when, but we're gonna sing it again and again and again and again. The very thing that makes Orpheus so special is because he sees the world for what it could be in spite of the way that it is. No shade to Eurydice, but there's a reason that he has the strength to go after her after she made the choice to give up. Just because something might be doomed doesn't mean it's not worth doing. I feel like what I'm about to say is actually a perfect representation of my realism, because I'm about to say something incredibly optimistic in the most pessimistic context possible. I know deep down in my soul, in my heart of hearts, that war will end and peace will come, if for no other reason than it has to end in order to begin again. Not to say multiple things can be happening at once, but it has to end A war has to end in order to have the resources for another war to start, and there's always going to be another war. Again, very depressing way to think about it, but genuinely, like, breaking cycles is a whole other conversation that we don't have time for, but even when we can't break them, we are able to endure them. We will endure them. The unfortunate truth is that no one who is a witness to war will ever come out of it unscathed. In the 2-hour finale of MASH, we see the myriad of ways that our crew has been forever changed, mostly for the worse, through their experience. The only way out is through, and the only way through is with each other. Both inside and outside the show, MASH is about a group of people who endured some of the most chaotic and unyielding and memorable years of their life together, for better and for worse. In his memoir, Never Have Your Dog Stuff, Alan talks about the day the finale aired and how they had a private screening that ended at the same time that the finale was airing for everybody else, and they ended up carpooling to go out and have dinner together, and they realized that the streets were notably empty. Like, where the fuck is everybody? Until they realized the ghost town conditions were because people were at home watching. Personally, it brings me a bit of comfort to think about the fact that the whole world is watching us, and they're watching us fail right now. And someday they're going to be watching us succeed. They're going to see us eradicate fascism from U.S. soil and finally begin the process of healing and rebuilding that so many of us are fighting for and wishing for and hoping for and praying every day that we are getting closer to. So in the wise words of the Padre,
look on the bright side. When they tell us we have to do time in purgatory, we can all say, no thanks. I've done mine.
all right, we've mostly made it. If you have made it this far, thank you so much. Like, subscribe, do all of that. Drop a comment. I really want to hear about all of your favorite things about MASH, any episodes that stand out to you for one reason or another, what the show means to you or your family or anything like that, because that is something that I think is so special. This is one of the only things that we have that is like a remnant of monoculture that no longer exists, that we can still be a part of together. I think that's like really beautiful and amazing. Anyways, if you would like, you can also support me on Patreon. I have all of my videos up there ad-free with occasional behind the scenes and other stuff. Everything is available to everybody starting at $1. Like, you can pay more than that, but if you want to pay $1 a month, everything. And also I have stuff up there for like free members as well. If you have never seen the show, you don't know where to start, but you are interested in it, I have my curriculum, my list of suggested episodes linked below and also available for free on my Patreon. Like I said earlier, I put so much time and energy into this. I tried to make it as flexible as I possibly could, so you can watch as much or as little as you want on it to still get the general gist of like all of the goodness. It also has information on how and where to watch it for free on Internet Archive if you don't have Hulu or Disney Plus, or you just want to watch it without the laugh track. Also, if you are a pirate, if you sail the seas, if you know what I mean, you can go ahead and back up the whole thing. Like I did. Shh. Where do you think I got the clips for this video? Must-watch episodes are bolded and then given 1 to 5 stars. This isn't a rating per se, but it's like a rating of how much I really think you should prioritize this episode. So like 4 to 5 stars, must watch. 1 to 3 stars, you should probably watch, but you don't have to. Otherwise, do whatever you want and have fun. Like I said, truly episodic, very few ongoing storylines. You can watch in whatever order you want. Pick episodes that sound interesting, or go in order, or go by character, or do literally whatever. I just think it's a fantastic show and you should get a taste of it. Whether you are a longtime viewer of the show, or you're new to it, or you're new to me, thank you so much for watching. And with that, I bid you goodbye, farewell. I'll see you in the next one. Amen.